Imagine blinking, and the world changes a little each time. A photo gone, a wall moved, a loved one staring at you without eyes. Now imagine you can't stop blinking.
Hi, welcome back to this channel, where the stories never quite let you sleep easy. If it's your first time here, I'm really glad you stopped by. Tonight, I have a tale that will make you think twice about closing your eyes. A man begins to notice small differences in his reality, harmless at first, until the world itself rewrites every time his eyelids close. What starts as confusion becomes terror. Take a deep breath and don't look away, because this story begins with something as simple as a blink. Ready? Let's begin.
Alex blinked once, and the kitchen was different. Not in some subtle blink-and-you'll-miss-it way. The toaster was gone. The mug he'd left on the counter had been replaced by a glass he had never owned. Heart racing, he rubbed at his eyes. Fatigue, maybe. Stress, more likely. But when his gaze lifted again, the photo of his sister that had hung on the fridge for years was missing. He blinked again. The fridge itself was gone. He stumbled back, gripping the countercup for balance. The walls, the furniture, even the faint lingering scent of coffee, all of it felt unfamiliar, as though someone had quietly rearranged reality while he wasn't looking, cold shiver tracing his spine. He hurried into the living room and his chest tightened. The couch, the rug, the entire room, it was the same, but not the same. The pattern on the rug had shifted into something he swore hadn't been there before. And then he saw her, his wife, or at least someone who looked exactly like her. But she didn't look at him. She walked through the space as though he wasn't there at all. Whispering, he called her name, but the sound dissolved into silence. Blinking once more, Alex felt the world lurch, change, unravel. And with icy certainty, he understood every time he blinked, reality rewrote itself. Fear tightening in his chest, he realized he no longer knew how much of what he saw could be trusted. He tried to steady himself, gripping the doorway until his knuckles turned white. Maybe this was just exhaustion, some hallucination caused by stress. But when he dared to blink again, the living room shifted once more. The rug vanished entirely. The walls seemed closer, pressing in. The air was heavier, as though someone had filled the room with water and he was drowning without moving. Emma? He tried again, louder, his voice cracking. The figure that looked like his wife paused mid-step, her head tilting as though she'd heard him or something else. Slowly, unnaturally, her face turned toward him, but where her eyes should have been, there were bits of shadow, bottomless and wide. Her mouth opened into a smile that stretched too far, the skin pulling at the corners as though it might tear. Alex stumbled backward, tripping over air, scrambling toward the hallway. He didn't want to blink. He couldn't. But his eyes burned, tears forming, the human need for relief overwhelming. He blinked. The hallway was gone. Now he stood outside, the night pressing down, the air sharp with the smell of wet earth. Houses lined the street, but every window was dark, every door sealed. Figures stood motionless on the sidewalks, neighbors, or at least their shapes. Their faces were smooth, featureless ovals. Yet as he staggered past them, he felt their eyes, invisible but piercing, following every movement. One of them tilted its head, then another, and another, until every faceless figure stood at the same unnatural angle, silently acknowledging him. "No!" His voice was barely audible. He pressed his palms into his eyes, forcing them open wide until they stung. But he couldn't last forever. His eyelids betrayed him. Blink. The street collapsed. He was in his office. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting sickly shadows. Desks stretched in endless rows, but every chair was filled by those same faceless figures, all typing on invisible keyboards. The clicking of their fingers wasn't natural. It was too synchronized, too mechanical. He stumbled between the aisles, his breathing ragged. "This isn't real. This isn't real." But the words bounced off the walls, swallowed whole. One faceless worker turned toward him. The rest followed, swiveling in unison. Blank heads facing him, silent, oppressive. He ran. Blink. His childhood bedroom, posters peeling from the walls, a nightlight casting a weak glow. On the bed sat a boy, himself at 12, legs drawn to his chest, shaking. The boy looked up with wide, terrified eyes. "You shouldn't have blinked. You're letting it in. What's happening to me?" Alex dropped to his knees, desperate for an answer, but the boy only shook his head. "Stop blinking. You'll disappear." Alex beat for him. His fingers grazed his sleeve.
Blank. The bed was empty. No, his scream cracked through the silence, tearing from somewhere deep in his chest. He clawed at the air, his breaths coming in ragged sobs. The room darkened. A mirror appeared on the far wall. His own reflection stared back at him. But something was wrong. Its smile was too wide, its eyes too sunken, its skin pale like wax. The reflection lifted its hand slowly, deliberately, and pointed at him. Its lips moved, though no sound emerged, until Alex realized he could hear the words, not from the mirror, but from inside his own head. "You're not supposed to be here anymore." Alex shook his head violently, backing away. No, this isn't real." The reflection's grin stretched wider, splitting the skin at the corners of its mouth. He blinked. The mirror was gone. He was in a hospital hallway now, the lights flickering overhead. A bed rolled past by itself, sheets writhing as though something unseen thrashed beneath them. The air reeked of antiseptic and decay. He pressed against the wall, his entire body trembling. From down the corridor, whispers rose, layered voices overlapping, all speaking his name. "Alex, Alex, Alex." He stumbled forward, desperate to escape, but the hallway stretched endlessly. Doors lined either side, each one rattling as though something clawed from within. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't think. He blinked. Children's laughter echoed all around him. He was standing in a playground at night. Swings creaked back and forth, though no one was sitting in them. The laughter circled him, high-pitched and mocking, yet there were no children to be seen. Shadows flickered in the corners of his vision, darting away when he tried to focus. "Stop!" His voice cracked into the void. "Leave me alone!" The laughter cut off. Silence crushed down. Then Emma appeared again. She stood at the edge of the playground, her face soft, almost normal. Relief surged through him, fragile and desperate. "Emma," he whispered, stumbling toward her. But as he drew closer, her features melted, smooth skin replacing her eyes, her mouth. A faceless Emma stood before him, tilting her head in the same grotesque way as the strangers on the street. He fell to his knees, tears burning his face. "Please, I just want to go home." Her hand reached out, gentle, almost loving, as her voice whispered directly into his mind. "You blinked. Now you belong here." His chest seized. He wanted to scream, to deny it. but his eyes betrayed him once again. Blink. He was back in his living room, or what was left of it. The walls bled into shadows, furniture flickering between shapes. His reflection stared at him from the television screen, grinning, waiting. The faceless strangers breathed against the windows, dozens of them, their blank heads tilting in unison. He backed away, his heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else. I won't blink. I won't. But his eyes ached, burning, desperate for relief. His body betrayed him. Blink. The room collapsed. The world folded in on itself. And Alex realized with cold, final certainty that every blink was erasing him piece by piece. He was running out of blinks.
By the time Alex stumbled into the last room, he could no longer tell if it was his home, a hospital, or a dream stitched together from fragments of memory. The walls bled into one another, the air heavy with whispers that breathed his name. His reflection stared at him from every surface, mirrors, windows, even the polished edge of a doorknob, each version grinning wider than the last. Emma appeared once more, or what he thought was Emma. Her smile was too sharp, her eyes too dark, her voice not entirely her own. "You've been blinking too long," she whispered, words curling around him like smoke. Alex wanted to scream, to run, to claw his way back into a world that made sense. But when his eyes fluttered shut just for a second, everything folded. The walls vanished, the voices cut off. And when he opened them again, there was nothing left at all. Only silence, only stillness, and the suffocating certainty that he had finally blinked himself out of existence. And so, with every blink, his world unraveled until there was nothing left but silence. Perhaps the same silence that lingers now as you sit here, eyes growing heavy, wondering what might change the next time you blink. If this story made you shiver, remember to like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next nightmare waiting for you here. Share this with a friend if you think they're brave enough to keep their eyes open. Until next time, sleep lightly and don't blink.